Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Point of Disorder. Your host, Norris Howard here. And we are joined by two very special guests because everybody decided to get bubonic over the past few days. First and foremost, we are joined by Christy McGillivray, Executive Director of Voters Not Politicians. How are you doing today?
I am awake and here.
All right.
I'm good.
That's good enough. And also we got good friend and affiliate of the show, Jeremy from Hito. What's going on, my man?
Not much, man. My country's at war. I don't like it, but here I am podcasting. That's what matters.
You know what? We're Save the World one episode at a time, right?
Yeah.
You guys can find us on all of our social medias. That's at Point of Disorder on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all the places where you waste time on the toilet. And you can also follow us at Distill Social and at The Guerrilla Politic, even though Adrian needs to get well soon, so we'll send that to her as well. But first, Christy, we start with you.
Yeah, what's up?
And you've been doing some incredible work on the ground, talking to all parties involved on a major issue, which is getting money out of politics. And when we say money, we don't mean money of you all, the people. We mean massive lobby groups, dark money. Can you tell the people a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we're about 6 weeks away from qualifying for the ballot. We've been collecting signatures on a referendum. It's statutory, which means it would be if we get it on the ballot and enough people vote for it, it becomes law. It's a little bit different than amending the Constitution, just FYI for listeners, civic education. You have 180 days from backcasting from when you turn in the petitions, when you can count signatures. We're going up to the deadline. So if you signed the petition before Thanksgiving, you need to sign again.
Damn, that's me.
What it would do is it would close some of the nastiest loopholes of Michigan campaign finance law that allow utilities to functionally buy off our state legislature. And it also closes all the ways that corporations that actually contract with the state go back around and give the politicians cutting them contracts money. It's pay to play. So we're really close, and there is strong support from absolutely everyone in the state of Michigan. We started No Kings 3 at the Republican nominating convention here in Michigan. And we had a very warm welcome, got a lot of signatures and volunteers, and we said the same thing there that we said at No Kings, and everyone agreed.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear about your reaction at the Republican nominating convention because this is a bipartisan issue. Like, no one likes the fact that DTE can just give copious amounts of money to our politicians.
Literally no one.
So, when you were talking to our friends on the right, what was sort of their response to what you guys were doing out there?
Is literally the same as whenever we go into lefty spaces. So folks are furious about political corruption. They know that they're getting screwed and paying for the infrastructure that is benefiting very rich people at their expense. A lot of it, data centers are coming up in both places, in part because it's such an immediate thing that, if they're popping up in your community, folks are really mad about it. And it's so directly tied to the fact that utility bills are going up. Literally the same response. I think the same response from voters in terms of support is also echoed in terms of like elected officials behind closed doors opposition, right? So it is 100% bipartisan voter support. And I don't want to say 100% because there's some exceptions, of course, but pretty much universal opposition from the political and lobbyist class. So it's really a question of whether or not we're going to be disciplined enough to get this across the finish line and get enough people to vote on it, which is going to require Michiganders to, focus for 6 weeks and get some signatures with us. But it's an opportunity to actually exercise direct democracy. There's a very small handful of elected officials that will truly tell you what they think on any given issue, and they got themselves elected to live up to their values and represent their constituents, and they're willing to do the hard work of campaigning to make sure that they can get elected while taking on really powerful corporate interests, right? And so, Jim DeSena and I think Rep. Dylan Wagella are, as the co-sponsors of this bill package they're examples, right? So it is possible. And I think politicians everywhere are saying the right thing and then doing the wrong thing, right? So you're not going to find any politicians out there being like, I'm in favor of corruption. Like, of course, they're never going to say that, right? They're going to do the Matt Hall thing and give themselves a fake award or whatever that was. And, you know, they're going to campaign on expanding FOIA to the governor's office and the state legislature like Gretchen Whitmer did, and then, you know, not do it. So it's difficult to actually accurately communicate what they think and say because they don't accurately communicate what they think and say.
Yeah.
So you have to watch what they're doing, right? So what they're doing is PR stunts while actively undermining everything behind closed doors. That's what they're doing. And I think until we have the discipline to get this on the ballot and vote for it, which does require a lot of like discipline and organizing, we're just going to see the same disconnect between what elected officials say and what they do. So specifically, what you'll hear when they'll get a little bit honest is, well, it's kind of like whataboutism, right? Mm-hmm. So like, okay, yes, everyone knows that this is bad, but what about how could this wind up hurting this really important constituency that we care about that's not going to be able to give money anymore? Which is functionally the same argument as Citizens United, right? It's functionally the same argument that, you know, you should be able to give as much money as you want into a political process because it's speech. So descending into whataboutism behind closed doors, insisting that it can never be done because, the forces at play are just too powerful and you're never going to be able to take them on. And then, sometimes you'll get someone who's just going to like actually tell you how venal and crass everyone is and they just want to get paid. But it's really hard to get that said into a microphone.
I dig it.
So you got to compare and contrast, like actions. Pay attention to actions.
Right.
Do not pay attention to what politicians say. Pay attention to what they do. And that's tricky because it takes a second. There's a time lag.
Man, it's incredible that they're still making the argument like, what about this group that I get money from? I still want to get money from them.
Correct.
Because it's like the fundamental unit of a democracy is the voter, not the organized money, not the organized interest group.
Yeah.
It's the voters that select you to go and represent them.
And when you say that in Lansing, everyone calls you naive and pats you on the head and like shoos you out the room.
I think the prevailing sentiment in American society today, at least one of them, is that politicians are corrupt liars. And they are bought and sold by these corporations to do the bidding of corporations or foreign governments or whatever else. And so any opportunity we get to limit the influence of organized money in politics is something that we have to jump at. And on the data centers point specifically, like people across the country despise these things. And it's because as soon as they're put in, they jack up utility costs. Everywhere they go, they make living more expensive because once they plug into your grid, their energy sucks. So I don't know. It baffles me why nobody, no Republicans, no Democrats, like really latch onto this issue and run against the influence of these AI data centers. I don't know why they don't do it. My only assumption is that they're bought, right? But yeah, people despise these things. Across the board, they hate these things.
And it is interesting, specifically on the data center point as it relates to money out of politics, is that it brings together very strange bedfellows, right? Like the farmers and the environmentalists agree that data centers destroy the land.
Yeah.
And so no one wants to deal with it, right? The climate change deniers are mad that it's going to kick a whole bunch of diesel and methane gas up in the NIMBYs. They get upset about it. But then also the Luddites and the people who hate the tech barons hate it because it's just a blank check for these massive tech corporations.
Yeah, and I'll add in there, like we see some Democrats and Republicans, especially like statewide races in states where this matters the most, like Michigan, for example. Some of them are getting wise and saying, and talking about some of the regulations we need to place in these AI data centers. You know, make them pay for their own electricity, make sure they don't increase costs, make sure they're not like poisoning water, poisoning air, and that kind of thing.
Just really quick, I just want to remind everyone that all of those amendments failed when we tried to include them before. Continue.
Well, and I was going to say that in a state like Michigan, when we had a vote on sales and use tax exemptions in the state legislature a year ago, there was a bunch of people, Democrats and Republicans, that voted in favor of those. So while they might be talking on the campaign trail about regulating data centers and their negative impact on communities, they also in some cases voted for tax breaks that will then be used to lobby the government to prevent them from doing exactly that.
Yeah.
And so if we care about this issue, we got to care about this issue holistically. And I see very few people doing that.
And part of the ways we care about it is getting dark money out of politics, going back full circle.
And I actually would say that's the only way to fix this.
Yeah.
So there's, the to put on my cynical hat, here's the game in politics is to latch onto the popular issue, campaign on it, and then, create the perception that you're doing something about it while actually undermining it behind the scenes. Like that's basically the dynamic, right? The only way you get around that is to change the incentive structure and make sure that there's actually an incentive to deliver and not just put out PR spin. And in order to do that, we have to deal with money. So I think the explosion of data centers and how pissed off everyone is about it, it is a symptom. It is not the problem. It is a symptom. Yeah. It is the one that is front and center right now. It is the one that everyone is talking about. It has broad bipartisan appeal, which very few things do. So it's really helpful to latch onto it. But until we change the incentive structure, we need to stop being surprised that people act accordingly. It's how human psychology works.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, 1,000%. And, before we got on air, you sent through a video of our good friend Jim DeSanta at the nomination event. And I got to say, it's really crazy to get me to agree with somebody like Jim DeSanta. And it just goes to the bipartisan nature of the fact that people do not want this to continue. No. So in order for any of us to do anything, if you see these petitions circulating, Kristi, let people know where they can help.
Yeah, mopupmichigan.org, go grab a petition. And, it wasn't just Rep. DeSena that was having that conversation in that video you saw. That was on the floor of the nominating convention with an activist named Paula Cultwriter, who founded the Michigan for Jesus Facebook page. Huh. And
strange bedfellows.
Y'all, she's all in.
We take what we can get.
All in.
Yeah.
She's getting so many signatures. She is all riled up. I've had multiple conversations with her, and she is on board and understands exactly what the problem is. And, on this issue with all of these activists, they will say it's a bipartisan problem, which is very interesting. Because I think for, at the start of the MAGA explosion, they were latching onto corruption and saying that it was their side that wasn't corrupt. And it was, Trump that wasn't corrupt. It was just these other people that were corrupt. But I think now that we're, 10 years into this, I think the penny's starting to drop.
Yeah.
And they're like, ooh.
I gotta ask though, so obviously I'm glad that there are Republicans that are getting on board with the effort. We need everybody we can get if we actually want to get money out of politics. Take all the support you can get. But I do wonder what your take is on how they reconcile their opposition to money in politics with their support for the economic systems that generate the inequality to give them that much power. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
How are these beliefs held at the same time?
The party's actually a lot more fractured than I think people realize.
Okay.
So, I've had a lot of talks with, Jim DeSena about this, for example, and he is truly against all corporate handouts. He thinks SOAR is a nightmare. He also kind of goes, full libertarian and doesn't think we should tax anyone ever. So, whatever, we'll work on that. But I think that the party's more fractured than people realize. I think that a lot of the folks that are going hard on corruption are also the same people that just don't have faith in government to manage any sort of money, which I think is a little naive, because if you don't have any sort of public oversight, then power is just going to wind up getting concentrated.
Yeah, the government's not managing the money right now. That's the problem.
Correct. So I think there's the step we need folks to take is that the purpose of corruption is to make all of us subsidize them and take our tax dollars, right?
Yeah, right.
The purpose of corruption is messing with our tax policy so they get even richer.
Yeah.
And the folks that I've been talking to in the Republican world, they hate corruption. They're not quite bought in yet on the idea that the entire purpose of corruption is to mess with the tax code in ways that screw everyone. So I think that we just have to get everyone seeing that these are two sides of the same coin, and that's going to take a second.
Yeah.
And it also it takes relationships. We were just talking before the show, right? You can say something that doesn't mean anyone heard it, doesn't mean anyone's going to act on it, doesn't mean they're going to believe it, right? This is just a true thing. And so I think, we can say these things, but until we have enough of a relationship with people to have them understand that we are describing something they've experienced and they believe that when we're talking to them, until that happens, it's not really going to break through. So, we'll keep working on it.
Yeah, and we're going to continue to talk about this issue, and we're going to continue to provide you all with information that helps you act on this, because this is going to be one of the central issues, not just in Michigan, but nationwide as we move forward in hopefully a political system that still exists after all this. But I do want to keep
We'll
it
see.
here. We'll see.
It'll exist. It's just
God
a
willing.
question of whether or not it'll function the way you want
Exactly,
it to.
exactly. I want to keep it. I want to keep it in Michigan for a second and talk about one of the biggest races nationwide. And I really, really mean this. I mean, when I go out of town or I'm somewhere else in the country and people find out that I'm from Michigan, the first thing they ask me about politically is about this Senate race. It is a dead heat, three-way tie, essentially, between Haley Stevens, Mallory McMurrow, and Abdul El Sayed. And we had a very interesting weekend in which apparently someone in Abdul's camp leaked out some audio. So now we got all kind of skullduggery and subterfuge happening. It's like, he's got a Manchurian candidate. I don't know if you can say that anymore, but anyway, whatever. It's a podcast. But the point is that there was a big to-do about his comments, because he essentially said that he's not going to say anything about what's happening in Iran. He's not going to mention much about the Ayatollah, because he's got a strong constituency that kind of is really upset about what's happening in Iran, specifically the attacks on the ground.
Yeah, and I think some of the reporting was a bit disingenuous, because what it was reported as was Abdul said, people are sad, people in Dearborn are sad that the Ayatollah died, so I'm not going to talk about it. What the leaked audio actually had him saying was the war in Iran is destabilizing the entire Middle East, objectively true, like we've seen this happening, and that people in Dearborn are sad about that. And I'm not going to comment on the Ayatollah being killed, because it's a part of a much broader issue of us engaging in war in Iran, and it's going to cause many more problems. Doesn't matter if one bad guy is dead. The country itself, I mean, we hit a school. Like, it's ridiculous. So I think the reporting was a bit disingenuous. I think it was maybe sort of trying to smear him. But other than that, like, the call to me is just sort of uncontroversial. Like, he's right. Like, it is destabilizing the entire Middle East. And the easiest thing in war is to get the guy, like to get the bad. I mean, we got Saddam, right? Yeah. Iraq wasn't any better for our involvement in it. So I don't know. To me, this is kind of a non-story. That's my position. And I do think we are starting to see inklings of the sort of like anti-Zoran strategy against Abdul, because they ran on sort of similar platforms, right? The sort of affordability message based around the government being able to actually do things for you, fighting against corruption and this sort of thing, fighting against the establishment especially. And I think that maybe the center didn't really learn its lesson with Zoran, because it didn't work then, and they're going to start going after Abdul on the basis that he's like an Islamo-Marxist or something. And I don't think it'll work.
I have a question for you guys. I've been wondering this. I've decided I don't understand what people mean by center anymore. Like, I'm not trying to be like cute. Like, what's the center right now?
I think personally, in my experience, the center is just now become a stand-in for the politically disengaged and or uneducated. And therefore, it's a group of people that just want things to not be chaotic.
Okay, so you're talking about voters.
Yes, voters.
Okay.
Voters. Now, if we're talking about candidates, that becomes way more obtuse, because I don't think there's any centrist candidate, personally. I think either you have been moved to the left by general public sentiment, because I think the vast majority of the American public has been slightly pushed left, or you have gone full batshit conservative, and there is no more place for the Reagan Democrat fiscal conservative in our modern political context, because that person cannot win anywhere. That person does not exist. If you try to run as a fiscal conservative right now in Macomb County, the birthplace of the Reagan Democrat / fiscal conservative, who can you beat? You have to run against John James.
Yeah, we're like, 40 years.
You wouldn't have been able to beat John James.
Yeah, no, the neoliberal project's been going on for 40 years, and people are tired of it. When I say center, I think I'm just referring, it's more so like a matter of direction rather than like position on the political spectrum. I think for me, the centrists are just those forces, usually within the Democratic Party, because like you said, Republicans are gone.
Yeah.
The forces within the Democratic Party that are intentionally, often publicly, trying to pull the party further to the right. And that to me, I think is a terrible option, man. I think it's going to cause a whole lot of issues. I think tracking to the center just muddies the waters and confuses voters. I don't think a lot of people like to talk about the median voter. And trust me, median voter is a thing we got to pay attention to. But I don't think the median voter is a centrist or a moderate. I think the median voter is a person with a collection of a wide array of different, often inconsistent beliefs. And their politics is kind of just tied together by life experiences and prevailing sentiments about hating the government.
And cultural identity.
And so I don't think there's such a thing as like, well, and if somebody calls themselves a centrist, they're probably just right wing, like in all actuality.
I mean, I think that's a part of it. And I mean, if we're specifically talking about, the voters, right? I think about, particularly like the black voter, right?
Yeah.
A traditionally Democratic voter, but actually is quite in the middle on a lot of stuff, right? If you talk to, I think the average black voter, not just in the city of Detroit, but nationwide, you will hear a lot of them who are pro-gun, who are a little wishy-washy on LGBTQ rights, and who still have a foundation in the church. Yeah. And so that what is that voter? Do you call that voter a centrist? Do you call them a Democrat? I think that is the part that kind of gets silly. But again, as we learn, usually the more people learn about issues, they tend to move themselves a little bit to the left, as we've seen through many polls and surveys nationwide over the past few weeks. So, you asked us, but I do want to flip it back. What do you think the center is?
Well, I asked because I'm not sure. So I have not decided. Because I think that there's a massive political realignment underway, and it's hard to see really profound things changing when, like, the ground's moving underneath your feet. But it was, like, literally emotionally destabilizing to spend 4 hours talking to Republicans and then 4 hours to know King's attendees and have literally everything in common in both places. And I just think that the shorthand we use to describe various political beliefs and trajectories and assumptions is no longer reflecting what's actually happening. And it's really hard to figure out the right words to use yet until I actually figure out what's going on.
Maybe the center is just anti-oligarch. Maybe that is the central defining thing.
I think.
Are you completely no billionaires ever and that pushes you left, or are you go be a billionaire and that pushes you right?
I mean, I think economic populism is always tends to be a really huge factor. I think the fact that you started talking about voters and you talked about politicians was interesting. And I think there's been this rupture and disconnect between what parties and politicians do and what human beings want them to do. Yeah. And I think that while that disconnect keeps feeding on itself, things are going to get messier and messier.
Yeah.
Because I think even trying to describe the center assumes a relationship between what powerful people are doing and how the public is reacting. And right now, the public is reacting and they are not responding to that accordingly. That seems bad.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what's going on.
Yeah. Well, moving out of Michigan a little bit, I want to talk a little bit about a really kind of scary thing that's happening at the Supreme Court right now, because they are currently hearing arguments about birthright citizenship. Again, this is one of the most one of the foundational things about America that they are trying to essentially take away. But the scary part is right now, as we record, Donald Trump is at the Supreme Court sitting in on oral arguments, which is something a president has never done ever.
Yeah, definitely not an intimidation tactic.
No, he is trying to frame Mog the SCOTUS.
Incredible.
All right. And this is, and I say that to be funny, but this is what he does. He goes to places and he goes to people and he tries to tower over them and aura farm everything and essentially make them afraid to make the correct decision. Because there is only one correct decision, right? It is enshrined in the Constitution.
It's plain, yeah.
It is plain. Birthright citizenship is in the Constitution. So unless you change in the Constitution, which everybody has seemed to be very mum's the word about and nobody really wants to do it right now, that's the law.
Every single day they're violating the Constitution. So surprise, surprise, right?
Right.
I'm very tired of people saying that they can't do things. They will do things until they are stopped. So this is not the first time they've gone after, foundational amendments to the Constitution. I think this has everything to do with they're changing the idea of citizenship because they want to exclude as many people as they can from democracy, right? Yeah. And there are a lot of different ways this happens. They're doing it with immigration, mass incarceration, prison gerrymandering. It all goes back to this country's original sin, which was the intentional exclusion of people that were here that were enslaved in order to make sure that the people controlling those other human beings had access to their political power by kind of counting them, but not really. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It is the same thing. And so changing the label of who does and doesn't get to be a citizen, who does and doesn't actually get to be covered by the Constitution, it is the oldest story in American history. This is the newest version of it. It is deeply racist. It is disgusting. And, God, I'm like nauseous thinking about it. So, yeah, I think that this was the inevitable outcome of a society that decided they were going to be okay with mass incarceration. That's what I think.
Yeah, and the Supreme Court, I believe yesterday or 2 days ago, by the time this episode comes out, also ruled that you cannot ban in state law conversion therapy. They ruled a Colorado law banning conversion therapy.
And that was an 8-1 decision, by the way.
8-1 decision on the basis of free speech, whatever the fuck that's supposed to mean. Sure, whatever. But yeah, birthright citizenship is kind of my bellwether for if things are just over. Like you said, it's plain language. It's in there. We know what it means. You can go back. Like we have saved all of the congressional debate around these amendments that have passed. We know what they were considering. They explicitly did consider undocumented immigrants when they were talking about the 14th. Like we know this. We know that it is in congressional records. So we know what the intent of the 14th Amendment was. We know that birthright citizenship is a constitutional right. And if it goes, I don't know, man. I think
we know
that's
what their intent is.
Yeah.
Let's be clear.
Yeah,
we know the intent of the original drafting, and we know their intent.
Yeah.
And their intent is to exclude people to actually choke democracy.
And I'm supposed to believe these people are like the constitutional originalists.
And that was about to be my next point,
exactly.
actually. It's like, okay, these are the people who said,
Shall not infringe.
Shall not infringe.
Yeah.
This is a sacred document that we should never touch ever again, specifically around the Second Amendment. But not that 13th and 14th, we can fuck with that all
unless it allows brown people to have rights.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought up the slavery point, right? Because that actually is it is the reason why it exists.
Exactly. It's the same thing. We are having the same fight. God damn.
It's ridiculous, right? And so
Sorry.
This is no. And I'm happy you're fired up about this because it is, again, for me, physically, literally, a thing that will define if I am a citizen or not.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right?
It will.
If I have democracy and self-determination or not. Because I am only 2 generations removed from slavery, my friends. Right? Parents, grandparents, slave. This is very important.
It's the same fight.
This is the same fight, and just because the people we're fighting over currently speak Spanish instead of English, it doesn't matter.
Correct.
Okay? It doesn't matter. It is the same argument, and the fact that the president is sitting at the Supreme Court and trying to physically intimidate the Supreme Court justices should in and of itself be an impeachable offense, but that won't happen. Because, as we know, the entire Republican Party in Congress is bent over for Donald Trump, and no one is going to push back on this. And so I implore everybody, while we still have a shot, hopefully the election is a real one, because that's not even a guarantee anymore. This is what I talk about when I say, when you tell me you don't vote, I have no respect for you. This is what I mean when I talk about I will never be able to forgive certain people who are, I voted for Trump 3 times and now I'm only upset because gas prices are high.
Yeah.
This is what I mean when I say I have no love and have no respect for you, because you will deny me my own humanity. You will deny my family their humanity. You will deny the humanity of millions of families in this entire country. And you're cool with that because eggs.
Because eggs.
Yeah, eggs got too expensive, so we have to do fascism. Yep.
Yes, the stakes are that high, and I think that you can tell American history a lot of different ways. I think the most compelling way for me to think about it is a long, progress towards and away from actually applying the Constitution to everyone.
Yeah.
That's the story.
Yep.
Right? Is this a document that applies to everyone or isn't it?
Yep.
And that's the fight we're having right now, again. And, we fought the Civil War over it. And, the labor movement, the Gilded Age and the backlash to that, there's been this constant cycle of whether or not we're actually going to live up to our ideals.
Yep.
And here's the reason I think it's not all over, because we've been through multiple series of catastrophes in this country and have used the Constitution as a way to pull ourselves back from the brink of even worse stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying things are going to go like super well anytime soon. And I think that really profound changes that have like resonated globally have happened when Americans have insisted together that the Constitution applies to everyone.
Yeah.
But you got to do that insisting together. It's hard for us.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, I have sat in front of Trump voters and told them like, hey, so like, do you think I'm a citizen? And they're like, yeah, you were born here, right? And I'm like,
They don't know.
and I'm like, that's your
Yeah.
criteria.
Yeah.
If that is your criteria, then this is a non-argument.
Yeah, you're talking. Politics has nothing to do with logic.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I
So,
know.
like, I mean,
no,
you know.
I know. But that's the thing, is that we need to make it that way.
do.
And we need to confront people, which is part of why we do this podcast, is confront people with these sort of fallacies that people live in every day. Because if at bare minimum, you sit down and say, oh man, if you're born here, you're a citizen, which is a belief that almost all Americans hold, then this is not a real argument.
Yeah.
And we can move on to something else and let this be a dog and pony show, which is what it should be. But we got to take it serious because we know what we're dealing with. And that's the scary
And it's
part.
dark.
Yeah, that's
is real dark.
That's the scary
What
part.
is happening in SCOTUS right now is our original sin. It sucks.
I want to lighten this up.
Okay.
I was going to
Sure.
talk about budgets and wars and stuff, but I don't want to do that
Okay.
because this has been a dour show. And I want to lighten it up. So former DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, as we know, she has been banished to the hinterlands of
Yep.
Florida.
She got demoted. Yep.
Wait, she went to Florida? I thought
Yeah,
she
yo-
didn't go back to like a Dakota? Wasn't she from a Dakota?
Yeah, she was governor of
She was
South
the governor,
Dakota.
but her
yeah.
new position
Oh, right. They gave her another
is I
job.
believe, is
Shield
centralized.
America or some shit like that. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah,
It's a made up position
it's
to
not-
demote her.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
not
okay,
a real thing.
okay.
I believe it will be in Florida,
Okay.
is what I read previously.
Okay.
However, this is not about her.
Yep.
What we are going to talk about is the fact that her husband, all right, Byron Noem, it has now come out that he has spent over $20,000, or let me get it right, $25,000 on prostitutes and sex workers because he wants to dress up like a woman with massive inflatable breasts.
Okay. So I
And,
didn't know
yeah.
that sex workers were also involved. I thought it was just the cross-dressing thing.
Oh, no.
Okay, because I was going to say nothing wrong with that, but I don't know what he's doing aside from that. so I won't.
Oh, listen, sex work is work too. The
No,
whole
of course, I
point,
just worry that he's a shit
Unionized
person.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Unionized now.
Yeah.
But the point that's funny here is that we got a party of people who are all about family values,
Heteronormativity.
heteronormativity.
Conform.
Have as many kids as you could possibly have, even if you can't afford them. Word to CPAC.
Yep.
And yet, at every single solitary turn, they just out here doing the exact opposite of what they espouse.
I mean, I think that, it's really interesting the way that like sex gets weaponized and who like really gets like shamed for it, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that it is really telling that this came out and like, we're all kind of laughing and whatever and blah, blah, blah. And I'm more interested in how it'll stick
Yeah.
and who's going to get blamed. I wonder if Kristi Noem's going to get blamed, right? Like, is the narrative going to be that Corey Lewandowski,
Yeah.
right?
She's
Like,
pretty
she had-
publicly cheating
right?
at this
So
point.
like,
Yeah.
she's like pretty publicly cheating on her husband. So are they going to like draw the conclusion? Like they always find a way to make it a woman's fault, right?
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
he's being a big freak, but somehow it's going to turn into something that Kristi Noem did, and we're blaming the sex workers, and we're blaming Kristi Noem, and like whatever. So I'm just kind of waiting. I guess I'm waiting to see like who gets blamed, and my money's on somehow they're going to blame women.
Yeah, see
Gonna do
the other shoe drop is his memoir is gonna come out, and it's gonna be we were in a sexless marriage and she was cheating on me,
And she twisted me with her, I don't know.
And she couldn't even do
neglect.
deportations right.
yeah, she couldn't even do deportations
get the
right,
brown
and that
people
really
out.
turned me
Yeah.
off.
Oh, you guys, we're back to the original sin. Okay, so the original sin of this country we covered, and now we're back to like original sin.
Yeah. I also like to talk about it from the lens of the fact that these are also people who demonize sex work.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's really what I want to hit on is that these are people who demonize sex work. And this guy has spent $25,000 on fetish workers and sex workers and, OnlyFans and all the rest of this stuff, which, by the way, has been linked back to his insurance company, which I'm not sure if it's gotten federal contracts. So now there's a whole
Spending taxpayer money on this
there's a
stuff.
whole potentially spending taxpayers'
Seems to
money.
run in that family, yeah.
On
He would have
this.
been smart enough to pay for it with crypto. Jeez.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
I'm just saying.
Just launder a little bit. Launder a little bit of money.
Don't take. This is not advice.
I'm just saying, I don't know. I don't know if the sex workers take Bitcoin. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Right? I think in 2026, maybe it behooves you to do so. But I do find it interesting from the fact that there could also be just hundreds of. There's a national security risk element to this.
Yeah.
There's a finance element to this. Like when people are in positions of power, you can't just get your freak on freely. Like there are things that you got to do.
You gotta be mindful about it.
You got to be mindful about it. And listen, if everybody's consenting adults, in all truthfulness, I do not care. Like I want you to be happy. But the problem is they spend so much of their time making life so difficult and so miserable and so awful for our LGBTQ friends and family members, only for them to go out and reap all the benefits of our inclusive society. It frustrates
It
me.
is. Yeah, it is. It's just like, it's incredible to me that Trump in part gets elected on like fixing corruption, waste, fraud, and abuse, that kind of thing. And then almost every single person in his cabinet is belligerent with spending taxpayer money. You got Kristi Noem's commercials, which apparently Trump didn't even greenlight himself. You've got Kash Patel going to see his like D-list country singer girlfriend, Pete Hegseth, and all like the makeup that he uses and all the stories
And
about
the
his makeup
lobster.
studios and the lobster and stuff. Like,
Don't forget the like random. What are they? This whole like new betting market on like
yeah.
like. I don't even know what is
Oh, the
going on.
Kalshi, yeah.
Yes, that.
The
Yeah,
Kalshi
the
stuff.
What is that?
the poly market bets
That's
on war
insane.
right before Trump makes an announcement.
God.
Like his
Anyway.
administration is just full of
Oh, and the
corruption.
ballroom.
And the ballroom, yeah, like it's just rank corruption top to bottom. And like obviously we saw this coming. We knew he wasn't going to uproot waste, fraud, and abuse, whatever. But it is crazy to see it in action.
It is
Yeah.
crazy. It is really crazy. I think it speaks to like how powerful, like predictable human cult psychology can be, right? Like, if you're part of a group, you're gonna cling to that group and deny reality to stay in it.
Yeah, and just my last point. Apparently, a bunch of their national security and counterintelligence officers warned them that this type of behavior can be used for blackmail. So please stop.
Oh, I had a question for you
And he
guys.
couldn't do it.
I had a question for you guys. I think that there is a massive component here that is just like intense self-loathing with all these folks, right?
Oh yeah.
Like,
Especially with JD Vance.
Right?
He hates himself.
right.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, like
1000%.
if you are actually okay with like your own behavior and what you think, you don't feel the need to like attack other people so much.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Well, and
part of me's like, are you guys okay?
I think, I think like a fundamental component of fascism is insecurity. And that insecurity takes on a lot of dimensions. But for men specifically, like white men in this country, a lot of it is just sexual insecurity. The feminists took like, having sex away from you, you're entitled to women's bodies and all this kind of stuff. I think that's like a foundational belief for a lot of these guys. And like, obviously it's in like the movement itself. A lot of young men are like this on the right. But I think, it shouldn't surprise us if it reaches its way all the way up to a guy like JD Vance, who seems like, in one way, he's like an empty suit, a vessel for capital. And in another way, I think he despises being in his own skin.
Yeah.
Like, I think he hates himself in some
It
deep
feels
ways.
like him and Mike Johnson are of that ilk,
Yeah.
right? Of like very repressed, angry at themselves
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Right? Because, Mike Johnson spent, years writing about, writing anti-LGBTQ
Op-eds with his name attached.
op-eds.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then apparently there's this ghost grinder profile that he owns that was held
It's
hostage
self-hate.
for.
It's
It is
self-hate.
a lot of self-hate. It's a lot of self-loathing. It's a lot of sexual frustration. But the biggest thing to me is that then, Brody, go to therapy.
I know. You don't have to do that.
Like, go to therapy. Like, we can help you.
I know.
You know?
It's like, that
Jesus will still love you.
he will. Clavicular. This guy,
Oh, yeah.
clavicular,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Going back to the frame mogging.
Sorry. I know, but like this guy, right? Whatever. I obviously am not paying attention to anything, but I do know that name because I saw people talking about him, and I was like, and then they were describing what he was doing, and I was like, holy shit, this kid is like self-harming on camera for hours and hours and hours a day, and like this is horrifying. It's not funny. He's self-harming, and I was like, we are literally publicly watching him walk down a path to like maybe potentially suicide and acting like this is like, I don't know. I think that if you label what he's doing as self-harm, then you understand the level of like self-hatred. And it is just like, it's just publicizing a mental health crisis in this way that I think is like actually heartbreaking. Heartbreaking.
He did an interview recently, and he was asked about like the male loneliness stuff, and he was asked about like why it seems like people are sort of, I don't want to say like down on social interaction, but that's the best way I can think to frame it. And he said something like, "Yeah, I don't see the point in a lot of social interaction." And it's like, Jesus Christ, man! Like that's so sad.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
That's so sad. And like the idea that this like whole political movement is like a movement, I'm like, I guess, except it's like
It's just a collection of grievances.
Yeah,
That's all
and
it
like
is.
collection of grievances and self-hatred. It's just anyway. Kristi Noem's husband, man, that he needs some therapy.
A lot of therapy.
Yeah.
If you know
And
what?
there's nothing wrong with that.
There's
nothing wrong with it.
Listen, so I think let's put a bow on the episode and say, everybody, if you can afford it, go to therapy.
And if you don't want to go to therapy, send your money to Voters Not Politics.
There you go.
And support getting money out of politics, because that'll
Support
help
getting money.
everybody.
Exactly.
Consider
maybe
doing
we can-
both.
There you go.
Consider doing both.
And then maybe we get Medicare for all, and then everyone could go to therapy.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, that's going to be it for today's show. Don't forget that you can follow us on all of our social medias. That's at Point of Disorder on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and all the fun places. And also follow at Distill Social and at The Guerrilla Politic. Kristi, where can people follow you?
Oh, I am not on any social media personally, but check out Voters Not Politicians on all the platforms.
Thank you very much. And also follow Hito.
Head in the office, all platforms.
You got it. And I guess we'll see y'all next Thursday.
Bye.
And that's a wrap on today's episode of Point of Disorder. We'd like to extend a huge thank you to everyone who listened today. And if you like us, give us a like, a subscribe, or a review on any place you get your podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on social media at Distill Social and at The Guerrilla Politic. This is the Point of Disorder podcast, signing off. Stay sharp, stay progressive, and above all, stay tuned.